Yeah, Trump's a nationalist, and I mean, and what nationalist wants to let a private banking cartel that's international in nature control the levers of power in the United States of America? I mean, it's rhetorical to you, obviously, Dave, and I think that's what he's trying to do that. He's not strong enough or in a position to do that. But the Fed, look, that's why they're trying so hard, Dave. Look, one more slip up, and the American people are saying there's got to be a better way. I think the Federal Reserve I think it's ending anyway, Dave. And I think that's why they're all spending like crazy. I think they know it's over. I think they're just saying, you know what, let's be narrow here and let's just keep spending away until this thing breaks.
Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report Spotlight. Today we have a returning guest, Bob Kudla. Bob is the creator and owner of TradeGeniusAcademy.com, and I am very happy to have Bob back on the X22 Report Spotlight. Bob, welcome back to the Spotlight.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. And I just wanted to start off, since it's happening this whole week and next week, the impeachment hearings. Now, so far we've had all these, I like to call them disgruntled employees because they're really not witnesses. They haven't witnessed really anything. I mean, do you see any impeachable offense? Do you see anything that is even happening that would push for impeachment?
Yeah, so first of all, a definition of impeachment is whatever the House decides what impeachment is, but from terms of what the general population would see as a high crime or misdemeanor, absolutely not. And I think Adam Schiff probably overplayed his hand here. And today you saw that Vindman now has started backtracking on his, some of his claims and how engaged he was or how important he was. And basically, he had to admit he never met the president. He doesn't speak for the president. He doesn't spearhead the president's policies. And so I think now they're starting to catch some of these people in the lies. Yovanovitch, she's probably on thin ice too. And there's a rumor going on around that Trump may have stumbled onto a hornet's nest here of basically, money laundering by the State Department. And so the panic has set in, and, all these threads now are leading back to prominent Democrats for payoffs and kickbacks and goodness knows what else, Dave. So I think this thing probably is going to end up in tears, and it won't be Trump crying.
When you're saying about money laundering, are you talking about the missing billions of dollars? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Money's been washed and bribes were given, kickbacks were given, and who knows, this money might have been went in one ear and out to Iran. So the trail may lead all the way back to Obama, the way this thing's going. So I just think that they should have probably left sleeping dogs lie, and now they're going to probably end up getting bombarded with this stuff, the wrong people. Or in our case, the right people.
Yeah. So why do you think they keep pushing it? I mean, because so far, every person they've had hasn't proven or even said, oh, yes, this is an impeachable offense. Why do they keep pushing it?
I think they're working on we call it MOPE in trading, management of perception, expectations. And I think what they're trying to do is, number one, is trying to hurt the president in some way, shape, or form in the broad population, number one. And number two is they may need to use this as a defense in a court of law, saying the president was just simply trying to cloud the issue, and now he's getting our people arrested. And in Washington, D.C., in front of a jury there, who knows how they're going to be, because, the deep state has been living fat there for 40 years. So, those are the things that are coming across, in my mind. And the longer they can get Trump to play defense, he can't play offense.
What I notice is every single time they start the hearings, the Republicans, they continually bring up the Bidens, Burisma, and it's funny how all these individuals really know nothing about it, which is kind of hard to believe because they were supposed to know everything about what was going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And in fact, they're forced to admit eventually that they did know about Burisma, and they did know about the Bidens, and that the Bidens were a liability to the Obama administration. And in fact, they tried to coach people through if the media contacted them, to basically send them into a circle back to the vice president's office, because they know that Democratic media will not pursue it. Like if it was Trump told them to go back to Pence, right? It would circle. They would hound Pence till he gave up the ghost. So, but they just knew they could just circle this thing around. Yeah, they all know what's going on here. That's the thing that's just amazing to me. It's just, I think it's the chutzpah that these guys have to just to drive into it. Maybe thinking, hey, why would we pursue this if we think we were guilty, kind of a thing where they think maybe this thing's just going to die. But the IG reports are coming out soon, and Barr's is he's kicking over some clods of dirt too. So I think this whole thing may be flipping. And I've always said, Dave, and I maybe even said it on your show, is that Trump's a master of timing. He wants this stuff to be hot in the media right when the Democrats are trying to build momentum into their primary. So anytime too soon it may fizzle out. But going in after the holidays and start dropping bombs on these people and start putting them in front of grand juries and start indicting them, right into the election season would be perfect timing for him.
Yeah, you're right. And you just mentioned the IG Pfizer report coming out. Do you think they're doing this to use the whole the fake impeachment to say that, oh, the reason why this report's coming out is because we're trying to impeach Trump? You think they're just going to keep this going to use it as like maybe a block?
I think they will until the whistleblowers indict it and Vindman's indict it and Schiff's indict it, or they're all called as material witnesses in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And then the whole thing blows up.
Yeah. And it's funny, you mentioned the whistleblower, and what keeps coming up through all these different hearings is you can't say this, you can't say that, because it will reveal the identity of the whistleblower. If nobody knows who the whistleblower is, how would you know if you said this or that? How would you know that would reveal the identity of the whistleblower if nobody knows who it is? Does that even make sense? Yeah,
that's the whole ridiculousess of this. I mean, none of this passes the sniff test, Dave. And in fact, the whistleblower is not sacrosanct anyway. They routinely get outed. So that this person somehow is Mother Teresa is a bit of hokum.
Yeah, I think if the whistleblower identity was released, the whole thing would just completely fall apart. But what's funny about all of this is that through all of this, Trump continually lets the American people know that the economy is doing absolutely fantastic. The other day, he tweeted out that the market hit 28,000 points for the first time. And you, with your trading system, were you prepared for the market to hit 28,000 points?
Well, I mean, personally, I found it amazing that it did. But the charts were very clear that we're going into what we call a kind of a blow-off phase of this. And I sent you some charts just to show you since the 1st of October, this thing has gone, I think it's gone up almost 15 or 16%. And then also today and last night, you're starting to see maybe some cracks in the wall there. And so, that's the nice thing about having a trading system is that you can have an opinion. And if your opinion doesn't matter, if the charts tell you differently, you follow the charts. And so that's what we do. And, we just literally been flipping back and forth, Dave, between trading energy and trading the miners, the gold and silver miners, trading platinum miners, and just keep grinding up because one or the other is doing well. And the stock market in general, only the generals are really moving. So when you see that stock market going up like that, a lot of stocks underneath, Dave, aren't moving to that extent. You're talking like the Apples, the Microsofts, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world are the ones that are flying because the way the stock market works, it's called capitalization weighted. They only have to push the top 20 stocks to get the whole index to move higher. And that's what they've been doing. And because the Fed has been the juice behind this whole thing. So the trades are, we talked about this, almost a year ago, there's going to be no trade deal. And they're just not going to do it. It's just some sort of game that's being played. Trump really does not want a trade deal because what he wants, Chinese can't stomach, and what the Chinese want, Trump will never agree to it. So they just keep bouncing this ball back and forth. In the meantime, Trump keeps raising the tariffs, and we keep bringing in more revenue into the country. So why would he ever change something like that and then hand back the Chinese hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff money when he's now bringing revenue into the country? So I think that continues. So that's off the table. This impeachment thing's off the table. It's all about the Fed right now, Dave. And as long as people have confidence that the Fed can keep pushing liquidity into the markets, then people will keep buying the market. But once people start getting a little scared, or if it gets a little too much too fast, we'll get a sell-off. And so my view is we'll get a sell-off at some point here pretty soon, because I think it'll drive tax revenue. Then I think we're going to try to make for another high. And when that fails, Dave, then you and I can have a different conversation going into next year in terms of where the stock market is. But that's not the economy.
Right, yeah. The stock market is not the gauge of the economy. I just wanted to ask you, do you think the stock market will hit 30,000 points?
Anything's possible. So, that's only what, 4% away, 3% away. We've been averaging a 30% a day, Dave. So I can't see why they wouldn't. We got to remember, big money needs big moves to get out. So I don't think we've seen what I call the blow off, where they really ramp it so that they can transfer these shares over to either the Federal Reserve or to retail or to the mutual fund industry or whatever. So the big bankers and the big hedge funds can be out of position. So yeah, I think it's absolutely possible. But it doesn't mean people's 401ks are going to be doing that, because they own a broader mix of stocks than just these indexes.
Now, what about gold and Bitcoin? Gold has been under 1,500. It popped up a little bit, back down. Same thing with Bitcoin. It moves up, it comes back down. We haven't really been seeing big moves. How have you been handling this? Because do you still think that gold is going to start moving up by the end of the year, or do you think it's just going to stay the way it is right now?
Yeah, so from a macro standpoint, absolutely. They can't keep shoveling in trillions of dollars, Dave, without it causing some sort of debt monetization. Will just light gold and silver on fire. Now, in terms of trading in a range, from a trading standpoint, we just don't care. So when we get a buy signal, we buy. We get a sell signal, we close the position. I'm not shorting gold. I'm not shorting miners. We've had some trades today and yesterday where gold and silver miners did well. We're taking profit. Energy got too far too fast. It's selling off. And then with Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin has a halving coming up, but I think the Chinese are trying to get in front of that a little bit, by trying to talk about their digital coin too. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is driven by supply and demand, and also by what I would call fear of the sovereign, governments. And so I think you start seeing China start to really wiggle because of this Hong Kong thing, then I think you're going to see, I think you'll see cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin do just fine. But in the meantime, you can still just trade the range and keep adding to your stack. And it's given really nice trading ranges. So that's how we look at it. My belief is simply this. I believe governments can't pay their debt. So gold, silver, and the miners are going to do great. I believe governments always overplay their hand, and people are going to run away from government currencies. And to the extent they can't buy gold and silver, they're going to get into cryptocurrencies, because people need to leave the country. And they want to walk out of the country without anybody confiscating anything on their person as they're getting on an airplane. So that's cryptocurrencies, and I think that macro call is still good in my opinion.
Now, for those people who want to get into trading and they know nothing about trading, do you have any specials coming up? I know Black Friday is coming up and all that, but do you have anything out there that people can use to get into trading?
Yeah, so Dave, what we always do for your listeners is by the 23rd, if they want to take advantage of trading with us, they can go to tradelikeagenius.com. And then we have 6 bundles we put together in terms of if you're a beginner trader or experienced trader. We have trading signals, we have chat rooms, we have training programs. We created 2 new rooms depending on how people want to trade. We have what's called a VIP room for people that really want to have a lot of access to us and are willing to pay a little bit more for that access, and also a coaching room for people that want to have access to us in terms of being able to learn without being in a bigger room to ask questions and have us be able to spend some time with them during the trading day. So, and then we also have our training, and we also have personal coaching. So we do the whole gamut, and they can pick one of those bundles that works best for them. And if they take advantage by the 23rd, we've discounted those up to almost 2/3 off our normal pricing, Dave.
Great. I'll be putting all the links at the bottom of the video. I wanted to ask you, the Fed came out and they said that, listen, they're not going to cut rates this year. They might not cut rates next year. Do you think the Fed is completely done in cutting rates?
Oh, they're not done cutting rates. They'll eventually get to zero, Dave. However, I think he's going to do everything in his power not to cut rates going into the new year. and I think the stock market's going to drive his actions. And then if we look at today. Home Depot reported they were miserable, and retail's been reporting it's been soft. And one thing the thing about it that really gets people upset about the Federal Reserve is that he's not lowering rates because he's trying to preserve bank profits. And at the same time, the banks are borrowing at 1.5%, and they charge credit card rates are average of 15.5%. Car loans, people have to take 8-year car loans. The minute they drive the car off the lot, they're 2 years underwater on a car. So at some point, I think with the political heat coming from the left on this, and deservedly so, is that they're going to have to start driving down the cost of borrowing for the vast majority of people that are basically starting to get locked out of the economy, or they're going to have a really nasty recession going into 2021, Dave. So yeah, I think they will. They're going to hold off until he has a gun to his head, and then they're going to just drop their pants.
So do you think Trump, who met Powell in the White House, do you think Trump met him to push his agenda and make sure that Powell is following what he wants him to do?
Yeah, I think Trump wanted it on record. I had a meeting with him, an official meeting. I told him our rates are too high. We're giving ourselves a competitive disadvantage to the rest of the world. Look, Europe and Asia use currencies as an economic tool and a weapon. And the United States, because our Federal Reserve doesn't support the American economy, it supports the European elites, they're reticent to do so. And so, they're going to have to get on board, or, that Trump's going to just paint them with a very, very poor brush going into the election. And if Trump wins, I think all bets are off. But if Trump loses, the Federal Reserve is going to be in big trouble, because the left's simply going to try to do what they always do. They're going to try to grab power from the bankers. And I think the Federal Reserve will get on board fast with Trump.
So if the economy starts to slip, let's say after Trump is reelected, I mean, he's kind of set up the Fed to fail. Because if we enter a recession, he can always say, hey, listen, they didn't do exactly what I wanted them to do. I mean, I wanted them to lower rates even further than they have. And because they didn't, look where we're at. Do you think he's setting them up on purpose? He's creating this whole entire narrative?
Oh, without a doubt. He watched what happened to George Bush 1 going into the election, when the Fed basically didn't want him to get reelected, and they didn't lower interest rates, and the economy went into recession, and they blamed him, and we got Clinton. And so Trump's like, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to be out there every day telling the American people what I think is the right thing to do. That the Fed's wrong, the Fed's not paying attention, the Fed's late, the Fed's not as good as these other central bankers. And then when things start going into recession, he's going to point to them and say, hey, look, you're making the cost of capital too high. You're making our dollar too strong. Our citizens can't borrow at competitive rates. In Denmark, you can buy a house at less than 1% mortgage. Even if that was the case, you're paying that mortgage, your principal on that mortgage is coming down fast, and here, people aren't getting any breaks, and Trump's going to paint the bankers with it. And, I think that's why Jamie Dimon's getting a little nervous here, and he's getting really, really conservative, because I think he sees what's coming.
Do you think during this crisis, because we all know eventually the system can't continue the way it's going. I mean, it's being manipulated by the Fed. I mean, they're monetizing the debt right now. They have with stimulus, and they're just trying to keep the system going. Do you think that when the entire system starts to fall apart, do you think Trump will use this crisis to maybe rein in the Fed?
Oh, I personally think so. I think he's going to try to get under the curtains there a little bit and curtail some of the favorable treatment, other banks, especially banks outside the U.S. get. And then number two is to try to get it a little bit more on a hard currency or a hard asset kind of basis here. Reprice gold to pay off some of the debt, things of that nature. Judy Shelton, I think that's his pick. I wonder what she's going to get. Officially nominated or vetted, but she's a gold bug. And I think Trump, he obviously doesn't trust them. He thinks they're part of the problem. So I think once he has nothing to lose that last 4 years, I think it'll be Trump unchained. And I think he's going to go for it.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned that the Fed is part of the problem. I mean, I've always said this, that I believe this is where the corruption and everything else comes from, because we're just creating currency out of thin air, and government just can borrow and borrow, and you don't know where the funds have gone. Just like in Ukraine, they just disappear. Do you think that would be the end of the entire plan, is to go after the Fed and remove the Fed and return the creation of currency back to the people?
Yeah, Trump's a nationalist. And I mean, what nationalist wants to let a private banking cartel that's international in nature control the levers of power in the United States of America? I mean, it's rhetorical to you, obviously, Dave. And I think that's what he's trying to do that. He's not strong enough or in a position to do that. But the Fed, look, that's why they're trying so hard, Dave. Look, one more slip up and the American people are saying there's got to be a better way. And Trump wants to be on hand to do it. And if the Federal Reserve thinks that getting Trump out of office and not having Biden be elected, that's why I think Bloomberg is panicking and trying to get into the race. But Elizabeth Warren is no friend of the Federal Reserve at all. You know, if Trump's going to go in there with a rifle, she's going in there with a bazooka. And so I think the Federal Reserve I think it's ending anyway, Dave. And I think that's why they're all spending like crazy. I think they know it's over. I think they're just saying, you know what? Let's be narrow here and let's just keep spending away until this thing breaks.
So you think the people in the Federal Reserve realize that this is the end?
I think those people they're probably a lot of arrogance there, but I think you're seeing it in Europe. Europe's saying, I think we've taken this thing as far as we can go. Abe said in Japan, he goes, I'm not sure how much more asset buying we can do. And the United States is sitting there saying, hey, we're the reserve currency and we still have interest rates and we still have trillions of dollars of QE we could still perform. So I think they could still save the world. I just think that their math is wrong.
So if the Fed is gone and we no longer have the Fed, is it possible to go back on some type of gold standard and return the creation of currency and return it back to the people? Is that possible now? Even because, I mean, it's not just the Fed. We have the ECB, we have the BIS, we have the IMF. We have so many central banks around the world. Do you think it would be possible to have this happen?
Well, I think it'll happen, Dave, when either the ECB or the Japanese central bank, one of them has to blow up first. And so what I always watch for is that I think they can keep this game going as long as they can control energy and food prices. Once they lose control of either one of those or both, then it's over for the Federal Reserve. They got a little taste of it in 2011 when we had the Arab Spring. And then if it happens again, because dollar, the reserve currency, it's already choking a lot of countries that are dollar based. They can't get off the dollar system where they can't afford to import food or energy. So if the dollar starts to slip against food and energy, Dave, the central banks have no way of solving that. They can't raise interest rates, or it will be instant depression. And if they keep lowering it, they just raise the price of food and energy till it's intolerable. Those are that's the new vigilante. So once those two things happen, then it's over. And and obviously the wild card is this grand solar minimum. If it performs as advertised over the next decade, then there's going to be some farming belt that's going to blow up to the extent that you can't redistribute the supply around the world. And then I think that'll also hasten its end.
Bob, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so go to tradelikeagenius.com and check in. You can chat with us, you can call us, you can email us, and we'll be happy to walk you through the specials. And, what we do, I sent you, Dave, over some comments people have about what we do and our track record as always. And you'll find that we do a really good job and we take it very seriously. And, we don't promise Lambos, but we'll help you grind your way to profits, day in and day out. And I think we give you a good return on your money that you invest with us. And I mean, the service is not, we don't take your money. So, but thanks for letting me share that. TradeLikeAGenius.com, 23rd, the specials run till.
Great. Bob, once again, thank you very much for being on the Spotlight. I'll be putting all the links at the bottom of the video to make it easier for everyone. Just click on it. You go right over to it. Once again, thank you very much for being on the Spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Fucking hands.